Alright, so a friend of mine sent me this list. Dark Souls 3, best halberds, ranked. You've actually seen him featured on the channel a few times, the one that sent it to me. I only know about the bottom two, and I didn't want to spoil the rest of my list because I wanted kind of a live reaction. We're just gonna summary. The Immolation Tinder is a versatile halberd that scales with strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith. If if you can see the inherent flaw with that sentence, you know we're going to be in for a good time. While every installment in the Dark Souls franchise has its charms, many players agree on the fact that Dark Souls 3 is the best of the trilogy. Way to say nothing while pretending like you said something. The game presents players with various obstacles, armor sets, and even weapons that can't make the game too easy if used correctly. I feel like he meant to say can. If I were writing this sentence, I would have put can, but maybe he knows something I don't. Most players prefer to use great swords, great axes, bows, and even spells when it comes to dealing with their enemies in the various areas of the Kingdom of Lothric. However, there are a few others who don't mind experimenting and choose halberds as their main weapon. Here are the best halberds in Dark Souls 3, ranked. This is written like he's trying to get to his word count to submit a paper in school. Most players don't use bows or spells because they're bad. They're just really not good in Dark Souls 3. Pyromancy is fine if you want to do a PvE run, which this hasn't said whether this is a PvP or PvE list. I'm going to assume PvE because of how surface level everything is written. The Immolation Tinder. Base physical damage 116. I'm going to assume this is if you get all of the stat requirements to the base they can be. I'll be surprised if the plus 10 Immolation Tinder with base stat requirements is only swinging for 116 damage. Maybe this is at like plus 0 or something in between. I don't know. Let's see what they have to say about the Immolation Tinder. Requirements. Oh, okay. It needs 18 strength and dex. That's pretty steep if you're also asking for 12 intelligence and 12 faith. Has D strength and D dexterity, D rank scaling, and apparently has 12 rank scaling for intelligence. I don't know what that means, but it has rank 12 scaling for intelligence. One would think that given the weather conditions in Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, there wouldn't be any fire involved at any point throughout the area. However, players who believe this will quickly be proven wrong by the dangerous fire wishes that inhabit the area. Yes, and 2 sentences in a row with the same word. That's how you keep people engaged. Well done. These formidable enemies can use their halberds as flamethrowers and also do various fire spells that are hard to dodge. Players who are interested in acquiring the Immolation Tinder will have to farm fire witches tirelessly to get it. The weapon scales with strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith, making it a versatile choice. No, in fact, that's the opposite of versatile. That means you need, let's go check real quick, let's double check, 18 strength, dex, intelligence, and faith. That is really hard to pull off, until you have like an end game character, and you really already need to be building like a pyro or a mage to even want to invest all of that. So that's a really, really bad argument for why it's versatile. But you know what's an actual argument for why it's versatile? It casts spells. I don't think they mentioned that. No, players who are struggling with farming these enemies might benefit from any mods that can make them more powerful. So I guess they're just openly endorsing cheating so you can beat the hard Souls game. Well, definitely aren't ways in the game to make yourself more powerful. I don't know what the fuck any mods that can make them more powerful means, but it's a catalyst. It also casts spells. I agree with its placement, honestly. It's definitely one of the worst halberds. It might be the worst. 8 is a reasonable spot, but they're not really saying why it's down at number 8. They're not really saying why it's the worst halberd in the game. They're just like, oh, it's pretty versatile for reasons that mean it's not versatile. Crescent Axe, 3 more base physical damage. Again, that seems awfully low, especially if it's infused with anything. Really low requirements, so you can get, if you put a refined gem on that, you can actually get some pretty decent scaling. I use one like half as a joke on my level 60 PvP character, and like it's not a good weapon, but it does acceptable damage. It certainly hits harder for 119, harder than 119, excuse me. The Crescent Axe is one of those halberds that looks great but doesn't really do a lot of physical damage, requiring 14 strength and 12 dexterity, and offering so-so scaling with each of these attributes. The Crescent Axe is a good weapon, but not the best. It's not a good weapon. It's really bad. It has really short range. It does have, like, you can buff it, and it has a pretty unique weapon art. It's the only halberd to have Warcry. But it's pretty bad. You'd be hard-pressed to find a worse weapon than the Crescent Axe if you're just looking for an average, decent, usable weapon in the game. This isn't saying anything of value. This isn't explaining why it's bad or why it's interesting. And I like how they put something that's supposed to be worse, like something below it. They gave that more reasons for it to be interesting and cool than this. So this might not even be like ranking as far as usability. I'm already confused as to what they're actually trying to say. The 18 best boss. Okay. To get it, players will have to find the Paladin's ashes in the Cathedral of the Deep, and then give them to the Shrined Handmaid. At base, it isn't outstanding, but if players upgrade it enough, the Crescent Axe is a formidable halberd that can go well with the Knight or Warrior starting classes. Oh, okay. If you've done, like, 2 playthroughs of Dark Souls 3, you know that the starting class means almost nothing, because you can farm souls infinitely and upgrade whatever stat you want. Why are they... At base, it is outstanding, but if players upgrade it enough, that's just what you do. That's what you do as you play through the game, right? Are you expecting people to walk into Pontiff with a +0 Crescent Axe? Are you expecting to go up to the Soul Center like, oh boy, I wonder what this Titan Knight is for? What do you mean, if players upgraded enough? That applies to every weapon. Why is Crucifix of the Mad King at 6? What do you mean, base physical damage 124? Okay. Alright. Well, you really went all out on the fashion sauce for that one, didn't you? Really made it look like that guy knows what he's doing. Knows what he's holding. 19 strength and intelligence, 14 face. So this is actually easier to build around than the immolation tinder. Keep that in mind. Yeah, I need a little more strength, but you don't need any... I mean, there's... Wait. Well, hold on. Okay, it actually doesn't have a dex requirement. I had to go double check because I did not trust them to know whether or not it had one. As far as cool looking weapons go, the Crucifix of the Mad King is definitely among the top spots. One of the greatest things about this weapon is that its requirements are quite low, calling for 19 strength, 10 intelligence, and 14 faith. Scaling isn't particularly great, especially for the intelligence stat, but even then, this weapon is still formidable. Players can acquire this interesting halberd in the final area of the Ringed City DLC. They'll have to defeat Shira, who will drop the Crucifix of the Mad King upon her death. Okay, so first thing, 19 strength. That's not nothing. It is pretty easy to build around. This is one of the hardest hitting weapons in the entire game, especially if you're building around it even a little bit and you put like Dark Moon Blade on it or Lightning Blade or something like that. It hits like an absolute truck. So I don't know what they apparently just don't know what they're talking about with scaling. I get the feeling that they looked up the halberds, read the scaling numbers. I'm gonna assume at +0 this might be the +10 version, but with the way they're talking about the Crescent X, I think they're judging all of these off of +0, just picking up the weapon. Which is not how you... That's not how you judge weapons in an RPG. At least not one of the FromSofts. Not to mention the unique moveset this has with the Great Club R2 that comes out incredibly fast and hits. It has ridiculous hits on it, hits really hard. Or the weapon art that has one of 3 options. It's a roulette wheel that are all useful in PvP and in PvE. This can't, I still don't know what they're judging on. And everything they say is non-committal. Among the top spots, one of the greatest things. It's just like they can't say anything concrete because they don't actually know what they're talking about. Number 5, Lucerna. I mean, it's not better than the Crucifix. It's just not. But, yep, alright. D&D scaling, okay. These must all be based off of, like, judged on if the halberds are at base. As opposed to other halberds on this list, the Lucerne can be found rather early on in the game, specifically inside the church, where Emma is in the High Wall of Lothric. Since it's an early game weapon, its strength and dexterity requirements are rather low, and the scaling for both attributes is okay, but not amazing. Well, if you had bothered to upgrade, infuse, or build for any of the weapons you're talking about, I might have a reason to believe what you're saying about the scaling. All in all, the Lucerne shines not necessarily because it's the strongest halberd in the game, but due to how easy it is to get and how early it can be obtained. The High Wall of Lothric is an area that can be made considerably easier with long-ranged weapons. So if players are struggling to get to the church, a bow and arrow might come in handy. What does that have to do with the Lucerne? What does that have to do with the halberds, Game Rant? That's not even good advice. Just fucking run past them if they're giving you that much trouble. Or equip a weapon with poise. Learn to dodge. But yeah, no, sit far away. Aim a bow, which does some of the worst damage in the game. And that's how you should get the good advice and also great point for why the Lucerne is number 5. Above Crucifix of the Mad King. Crucifix of the Mad King, you can make an argument for being the best halberd in the game. Split Leaf Greatsword. Another argument for best halberd in the game at 4. What do you fucking mean base damage? Hold on. Let me just hold on. Okay. 116. Let me just 119. Yep. 124. Okay. Yeah. 126. Yep. 132. Okay. All right. I cease. Fuck. This is hurting my brain. C scaling of strength, E scaling in dex needs quite a lot of strength to use. You can two-handed, of course, to make that easier. Let's see if they mention anything about that. Starting with its name, the Split Leaf Greatsword doesn't really look like a weapon that should fit the halberd category. Everything about it besides its name is a halberd. You can tell because it looks like a halberd. Featuring a long handle that is typical of a regular halberd and ending in a long blade that's ideal for reaching enemies, this weapon has many advantages. Are you going to tell me what those are? Oh, I'm excited for the next paragraph. Please, tell me what the many advantages are. Its strength scaling is decent, but is somewhat overshadowed by the poor dexterity scaling that comes along with it. No, it's fucking not. To get the Split Leaf Greatsword, players will have to find the stone-humped hag at the Drake Heap in the Ringed City DLC and buy it from her. Okay. Split Leaf Greatsword has one of the hardest hitting R1 into weapon art combos in the entire game. It's used to just delete people at meta level PvP, and even at level 60, where you have a much harder time taking advantage of it. My character, with a +6 heavy infused Split Leaf Greatsword and 30 strength, will take out over half someone's health bar and 1 R1 into weapon art. They don't mention that though. They're just like, oh, it's scaling. It's got good strength. They don't mention that you need a lot of strength for it. But that's going to be a thing you have by the end of the game, right? All right, Wayne base damage 135. Okay, so just making sure. I forgot this weapon was in the game. This is number 6. For those keeping score at home, this one is the actual number 6. Yep, it has even more steep requirements, but it has... I'll see if my theory is proven correct before I tell you what it is. Winged Knights are probably one of the toughest enemies in the entirety of Dark Souls 3. One would think that, due to their massive size, it would be very easy to hit and kill them. However, they move very quickly for their size and can deliver powerful blows with their weapons. You haven't said a thing about the halberd yet. Some of these formidable foes wield the Winged Knight halberd and often use it in a devastating spinning attack that's really difficult to avoid. To get this weapon, players will have to farm Winged Knights with a lot of patience, as the drop rate is around 8%. If players are struggling, you don't deserve to have me finish reading that sentence aloud. So you said nothing about why this weapon deserves to be this high or below. You didn't say any. You said, okay, you said it has an 8% drop rate. That's the only thing you said about the actual weapon. Gundir's halberd. Yep. Yep. Let's see. Eudex Gundyr is the first boss that players get to face in Dark Souls 3. Defeating him comes with an unmatched sense of pride and satisfaction. Well, that tells me that's the only boss you've ever beaten then, as this boss seems extremely tough at the beginning of the game. However, players who have progressed considerably into the story and found the untended grave secret location in Lothric Castle would get the chance to face Gundyr in his prime, as he still wields the same halberd he had in the first fight, you dumb son of a bitch. Champion Gundy. Oh! Champion Gundy, the strongest version of this enemy, is much more aggressive and has. And. Champion Gundy, the strongest version of this enemy, is much more aggressive and a lot less forgiving in combat, so players interested in this halberd that skills decently with strength will have to hone their skills. Does it. Don't mention the weapon art? No. Don't mention that highly skilled PvPers will hard swap to the weapon art to roll catch people, and then once they're knocked down, it's really, really hard to get out of someone doing a Gundyr weapon art train over and over again. Don't mention that that's why it's good in PvP. Say nothing about it being used in PvE, because you fucking haven't used it in PvE. No need to. Champion Gundy! Oh! Number 1. The Black Knight Glaive. Base physical damage 150. Last but definitely not least, there's the Black Knight Glaive. This weapon looks amazing and has the highest base physical damage output of any halberd in the game, making it an ideal choice for players who want to hit enemies like a truck without any special status effects. Okay. Similar to Gundyr's halberd, the Black Knight Glaive can be found in the Untended Grave section, specifically in Champion Gundyr's arena. Once players traverse the fog to fight Gundyr, they should immediately turn right, making a 180 degree turn to surround the wall. There, they'll find a Black Knight Glaive. Like other weapons in Dark Souls 3, this glaive has a soft and hard cap once certain strength and dexterity levels are reached. Okay. So I know exactly what they're ranking. I know exactly how this list was made. What they did, I would put a fucking pay check on this. What they did is they went on to Google. They went to the wiki and were like, halberds in Dark Souls 3. And then the list is just the lowest physical damage to the highest base physical damage at +0 with the minimum requirements to use the weapons, and that's all they base it off of. You can tell by the nothing that they said. You can tell this was slid across a game journalist's desk, and they were like, "Hey, we want a Dark Souls 3 remastered. There are whispers about it online. We got to capitalize." Halberds, I think I heard someone say that halberds were used in a Dark Souls speedrun one time. You should make. I need you to make a list on Dark Souls 3 halberds. You've never played any of the Souls games? That doesn't matter. Just do a little research. And you got like 10 more lists that we want you to make. So do a little research, and you'll get like this. I can't even call this bait because it's not. There's not enough there for it to be bait